What if an old, unwanted book can become your new canvas and have a second life? Hi everyone, it's Asia Marquet here, Lemon Creation, and today I'm creating in my old book, and I know there's been a polemic going on about the use of old books, and there is a lot of people who are saying that you're wasting a book, it's not cool what you are doing, somebody put so much effort and life into creating one. And I do agree with that. I love reading books. But there is a second part to that, and I know I'm not gonna convince people who really don't like me touching old books, but the books I'm finding, they are actually old books, unwanted, and given away sometimes in the trash with pages, loose pages, broken pages with some content which is maybe not very interesting. And so I do that. I give them a second life and I treat them with all the love and respect I can give them. And for me, it's very important that you know that, but at the end, everybody has a right to opinion. So you see how I prepare my pages. I glue usually 2 or 3 of them together, very often with the matte gel, but you can use any type of glue which will work. And as you can see, I'm almost at the end of my book here. And I'm having troubles. The pages are so frail, so fragile that they are very hard to glue them nicely together. And I always have this worry that they will actually not hold with time. And sometimes that happens. So you've seen me repairing the previous page a little bit because the glue didn't hold. It's maybe my fault. I didn't put enough glue, but I have to be really careful with that. So especially at the end of the page of the book, when you know, I'm not working on a flat surface, one side is a little bit thicker than the other. And so when you glue the pages together, and as I mentioned, the best way is to glue 2-3 pages together, you have to check them from both sides. So you are sure that the next projects you're gonna do are gonna be having the nice surface to work on. And then I am, of course, prepping the pages either with gesso. In this case, I have a super heavy gesso, or with absorbent ground. Gesso is covering much more than absorbent ground, is more opaque, while absorbent ground is actually not dulling the colors as much as gesso does. So here it is, it's your choice. Gesso is more accessible, also cheaper and well known. So you can choose your weapon to prepare the pages. And I wanted to show you what I'm doing also. I was drawing the pages very close with my heat gun because that gives me a texture. They are these small bubbles which are being created with the heat gun. There are also bigger bubbles which are being created, but in case of bigger bubbles, I actually break them with the palette knife or any other tool. And so like that, they are not very, you know, like blown very big. I prefer the small, tiny bubbles, tiny dots, which are quite hard and they give a nice texture. And for this art journal page, I am using distress stains. Lately, I am a big fan of distress stains, and I'm usually using them or distress oxides, but I prefer the stains. They are actually more bright. Distress oxides, they have this oxide effect in them. And I wanted to add a little bit of Lindy's, simply because I didn't have any gray color from my spray stains. But the Lindy's didn't work that well. It was too bright for this page. I kind of find it too greenish, so that's why I'm adding a little bit of this color, which is called, let me check that for you. Of course, it's Speckled Egg, one of my favorite colors, and I'm adding a little bit of drops, and you know, combining the drops with the texture which is underneath, they are actually accumulating so nicely and giving again a little bit more of texture to the page. So the small things, you know, even if you think that they don't matter, they do. So all the small dots or rather small raised bubbles I made with the heat gun, all the you know, uneven lines which I made with gesso, all of that adds up and gives this page a little bit of more interest. And I use my Optical Illusion stencil, and the choice of the paint, it was not a great one, I have to admit. It's too blue, but I knew which focal point I'm gonna be working with, and I wanted to kind of go and stay with this speckle color, blue color, a little bit of greenish. But as you can see, I dabbed the stencil straight away with the piece of tissue, so like that I can dull the color a little bit more. And of course, on the other side of the page, I put, or on the other page, I just twist the stencil or flip the stencil, and I made the negative impression, which is actually way much better than the one on the bottom. I like it more for this page because the one on the bottom it's a little bit too blue. I tried to cover it a little bit with gesso, but it didn't work because of course the paints are reactive, so the gesso was becoming blue, didn't work at all. And now I'm doing a little bit of stamping. I'm gonna be using 2 sets of my stamps, Triangle Formula and Too Hard to Read, if I'm not mistaken. But as always, for a full list of products, you can just go down the description box under this video and check that out. There is gonna be a full list of colors over there. And so I took my old paper, which I'm thinking, you know, the one which is on the right hand side in front of you, which I'm thinking I'm gonna turn into rice paper. It's kind of my like a sheet of paper on which I do experiments. I would call it like that. I didn't want to have a very clear impression of the stamp, so the first impression after dabbing the stamp in the ink, I was putting on the paper on the side, and then I was stamping with the second impression. But at the same time, I've noticed that, well, I know that, but there is so much texture on the page itself that the second impression was not very, very strong. So I started slowly to add a little bit of numbers with just straight away, you know, just putting the stamp in the ink and stamping it on the page itself straight away. Like that, you know, you have these few different impressions, like stronger ones and less stronger ones. And I'm using my new digital set. I created, I think, this week, I created, I think, 6 new digital sets. And these 3 ladies comes from Dystopian Words. And I'm gonna be using them, but before I use them, I took my bottle of glycerin and I decided to use it as embossing powder and just make the edges of the circle, you know, in white. And I wanted just a small tiny edge, and the page was already dry, so I just add the glycerin with the paintbrush. You can mix the glycerin with water. I've showed you in my other videos that you can do that also, especially for splatter. But in this case, I just use straight the brush and the glycerin, and somehow I got this kind of halo effect around my circle. But I was happy with that, and I left it like that, no problem at all. Then I added a little bit more of this speckled egg spray on the other page. I left it to air dry, and in the meantime I am cutting my ladies. So some of you are asking how I do my fuzzy cutting. I use small Tim scissors, serrated, Tim Holtz serrated scissors. They are the best one to do a fuzzy cutting. But if my ladies, for example these ones here, they have these things falling from their heads or the hair, sometimes I just cut them, and then at the later stage I am adding them with the pen. Just I'm drawing them simply on the page. And for small details like this one, I'm using the knife, and X-Acto knife I think it's called. And so I have my ladies prepared, but before I place them, I actually add this color to the edges, because the edges are very white since I'm printing everything on the white paper. So I'm kind of adding a little bit of color to the edges. They look much better like that. And once again, I'm trying to dull the colors a little bit more, especially the blue. So I'm using my China ink and I'm spraying it all over the, or splattering it all over the 2 pages. But once again, it will react with the colors, so it will change the color. It will not be completely white, just the bigger splatter, which stayed a little bit white. But at the same time, even if it changes the color, it dulls the color, so it's a good way to go also. I glue my ladies, I put my heavy acrylic blocks on top of them. And for the sentiment, this time I decided to go with my very sassy words. They are a little bit funny, but I didn't like that they are way much too small in comparison to the ladies, so I took a piece of black washi tape, which you can find everywhere on Amazon or even in the Chinese shops, I think. And I torn one side of the tape, and with the washi tape it's always better to actually glue it with the normal glue. Even though it's washi tape, it should be adhering to the page, but especially with the page is very textured, it will come off with time, so it's better to add some glue. And I add my sentiment, and just, you know, for this small connection between those 2 pages, the best way to me was to add a little bit of torn washi tape there in the top page. And then once again, a small detail, just inking the edges of the paper with the black Archival ink. You may think is not very necessary, but it changes a lot, especially if you have strong black accents on the otherwise kind of bright page. So it's always nice to add this small thing. Right now I'm gonna be using a pencil Stabilo All and adding a little bit of shadowing to kind of anchor these girls a little bit more to the page, to give them a little bit more of this 3D look, and that the shadowing will do that. And normally this is a water soluble pencil, so I could have passed the brush around it and just make it a little bit you know, mixed with the background, but I opted to not do that this time, just left it like it is. And once again, small details, they change a lot. And right now here I'm using my pen to add a little bit of those details which I cut previously, so the small kind of don't know, strings with beads which were falling from their heads. And that's it from me, guys, for today. I am really wondering what are your thoughts about creating in old books, and thank you so very much for subscribing, for visiting my shop. You'll find the link in the description below, and have a beautiful day. Bye bye.